transformations fail. And those organisations that they studied found that 15% of digital transformation succeeded, but when they looked further on, less than 10% sustained their transformation after implementation. Your organisation will be talking to you and talking about their competitors and saying, we need to be the first one to disrupt everybody. The organisation that is going to disrupt your organisation is not looking at operating within your organisational norms. They're not looking at a startup precinct. They're not looking at the technology within that startup. And in actual fact, the people who are working at that startup will not want to work at your organisation. The people that you put into your startup precinct or your startup initiative are actually probably not ready for a startup either. Because if they were, they'd actually be doing a startup. That guerrilla movement is actually off doing something. It's probably a black ops activity. It's got some special sponsorship, and I'm sitting in my department, I'm going to create the next big thing. Probably 2 departments away or another team away, somebody else is doing the same thing, and we're replicating a lot of activity. And we think we're doing the really cool stuff, but it really amounts to nothing. How can you actually take paper-based processes and digitise them? That is not digital business. That is a cop-out for actually doing digital by an organisation. That is just process 2.0, process 3.0. If you have a value of innovation, it tends to alienate the population. You actually need to set the conditions for innovation as opposed to asking people to be innovative. The past and today is that we try to create jobs for people with a broad range of responsibilities, and often within those jobs we would have any additional tasks. And as a leader and as a manager, this is great. I can get this person to do anything I want them to do. And often we've got a long list of responsibilities, but we haven't identified the things that are most valuable within that job. If you don't have a technology strategy, it is really 50% fundamentals, 30 to 40% simplicity, and finally 10 to 20% of innovation, and working in that ratio. And when you start to do that, you will start to drive the right decision making within the team across the broader organisation. How much of that data is actually useful? What insights are gleaned from that data? And are you better off spending some money either collecting the data or actually generating insights from that data? And what is that data at its core that is actually going to enable you to make better, quicker, or informed decisions? There are 3 types of technology within your organisation. There is information technology that enables people to do their work. There is operational technology that may enable a creation of a product in a manufacturing plant, as an example. And there is customer technology that may enable a person to acquire a service. They are not the same thing, and we need to manage them differently. End-to-end digital. I actually think it needs to be owned across the business. And we need to get the business to understand that there is a model to digital, which is, where are you at in your market? Is it spring, summer, autumn, winter? Can you actually differentiate yourself in that market by going digital? And then how do you go digital? Is it through customer content initially to attract more customers? Is it through the ability to transact? Or are you at a position where you have a mature market where you're differentiating and it is sustainable and you build a broader ecosystem.